This, to me, this is like, forget your horoscope. Tell me what kind of headaches you get. I have to know, you're a type 7.2 headache person. We're not compatible.
You're right, yeah. My question this week comes from Anna from Athens, Greece, who asks, too much sun? Headache. Too cold? Headache. Too much sugar? Headache. No food? Headache. No water? Headache. Period? Headache. No access to a toilet to poop? Headache. Too much stress? Headache. Too little sleep? Headache. Too much sleep? Headache. Too much alcohol? Headache. Why? Why? Headaches. Why?
Trace, I love that you're shouting into the mic when we have somebody who clearly has an issue with a lot of headaches. Please stop. Please stop making so much noise for Anna's sake.
And I feel Anna on this. I had a headache yesterday. It's terrible. Nobody wants a headache. But Julian, what's a headache?
It's just when your think meats hurt. You know?
Yeah.
When you're just like the
your head aches.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? Your head.
I think I might be overthinking it, and it's giving me a headache. It seems so straightforward.
What is it?
Like, what makes headache?
Yeah, what headache make?
I think I've heard the answer to this, but I'm worried I might steal your thunder if I say it.
Nope, you're not going to steal it.
Oh, it's code for, no, you're wrong, but go ahead, try.
No, go for it. Maybe you know.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay, I have heard that your brain itself does not have any nerve endings that can feel pain.
Correct. The brain does not feel pain at all. Zero pain from the brain. So, when you're insane in the membrane, insane in the brain, at least it's not painful.
Got no pain.
Right.
So, what actually hurts is like the area around your skull, like the tissue lining, and things that can cause that are like if you're dehydrated and your brain volume shrinks and it tugs on these receptors and triggers them and then makes it hurt. That's what I've heard. I have not explored it any more deeply than that.
Yeah. Nerves and blood vessels and things in your head that are not your brain that are either swollen or constricted or something is going on to trigger those pain receptors. Paper in the Journal of Headache and Pain from 2020 says that the fifth cranial nerve is the common denominator for many headaches and facial pain pathologies currently known. However, you've heard of the DSM-5, right? The Diagnostics and Statistical Manual for Mental Disorders. Version 5. As a psychology person with a background in behavioral psych, of course I knew what the DSM-4 was when I was in school and the 5 came out.
I don't like the rules that they made to rolling for initiative, though, the changes in the DSM.
Yeah, I know. That's crazy. I mean, look, a D20, not everybody just has one of those laying around. Headaches are, in fact, the most common form of reported pain by people. There are more than 150 different types of headaches, said like a bunch of different websites. However, the reason I bring up the DSM-5 is there's actually one for headaches. Like the DSM, if you're not familiar, essentially is what psychologists use to determine what known and coded, so to speak, mental disorders are. So like ADHD is in the DSM-5, and to be able to code for it to bill your insurance and be able to say like, oh, you definitely have it, you have to hit a certain number of criteria within that. But they have one of these for headaches. It's called the International Classification of Headache Disorders, and they're on the 3rd edition, the ICHD-3. It was published in 2013, and it lists almost 300 different types of coded headaches and facial pains.
That's a lot of different ways that your head can hurt.
Yes, 300 different ways to categorize head achy. My thinky meat hurt. Ouch. Headaches can be one-sided, where it's just one side of your head hurts and not the other. They can be bilateral, which means both sides. They can be banded, where they go like around your head, like in the kind of the middle. They can be throbbing. They can be non-throbbing. They can be behind the eyes. They can be in the back of the head. They definitely say blood vessel constriction and dilation, again, commonly through the fifth cranial nerve. When was your last headache?
Yesterday.
And what did it feel like?
A dull throbbing around my temples.
Oh, interesting. Potentially headache number 2.2, a frequent episodic tension type headache with precranial tenderness or not associated with precranial tenderness. Could you tell me?
If I have precranial tenderness?
Yeah, maybe that's too personal. This lasted, say, maybe 30 minutes.
Yeah, I did take some ibuprofen for it.
Okay, got it. So the 2.2 tension type headache, TTH, is one of the different types of primary headaches. There are 4 primary headaches and several secondary headaches. So the TTH is the number 2 type primary headache, and the diagnostic criteria is 10 episodes of headache occurring in 1 to 14 days a month on average for less than 3 months, lasting 30 minutes to 7 days, and at least 2 of the following characteristics are met. It's bilateral, so it's both sides of your head. Pressing or tightening with non-pulsating quality, mild or moderate intensity, and it's not aggravated by a routine physical activity like walking or climbing stairs. And it must have both of the following: no nausea or vomiting, and no photophobia or phonophobia.
Yep, that sounds about right. This, to me, this is like, forget your horoscope. Tell me what kind of headaches you get. I have to know, you're a type 7.2 headache person. We're not compatible.
Right, yeah. The most recently I had a headache was just a stress headache, similar attention type headache. But a lot of people, I would say, a very common headache you get, like, say, in your 20s or teens, if you live out of the United States or drink illegally, is the drinking headache. A hangover headache, which is headache number 8, and then 0.14, alcohol-induced headache. And headache number 8 is a headache attributed to a substance or its withdrawal. There are several, looks like off the top of my head, probably 20 or more of these headaches. Yeah, no pun intended. So this is called an immediate alcohol-induced headache or a delayed alcohol-induced headache. So a hangover would be 8.1.4.2. It's a headache caused after a delay of hours by ingestion of alcohol and resolves spontaneously within 72 hours. Alcohol has to have been ingested, and you have to have had the headache develop within 5 to 12 hours after ingestion, resolved within 72. It's bilateral, it's pulsating, it's aggravated by physical activity. So primary headaches are the thing that is the cause. And then secondary headaches are caused by the thing. So like a tension headache is a primary headache because the tension causes the headache. A hangover headache is a secondary one because you drank alcohol and that caused, something like dehydration or something that caused a headache. So let's talk about the 4 primaries. There's tension, migraine, cluster, and then new daily persistent, or NDPH. The tension type is the most common type. It can be all over, a band around the head, not usually throbbing. And what causes it is typically muscle tension in the head and neck. And that muscle tension can cause your head to hurt. Another primary one is migraine, very common. 12% of the people in the US get migraines. It's a severe, debilitating headache. And the cause is unknown. We don't know why people get migraines. We do know that it's likely related to genetics and sensory processing. The Cleveland Clinic says up to 80% of people with migraines have a first-degree biological relative with that condition. Have you ever had a migraine? I've never had a migraine, but
yeah, and they suck a lot.
It's more common in women than men. They can happen every week or even just once a year, but they would still count as a migraine. And there are all these different symptoms, of course, like seeing auras or feeling this headache for a long period or having like a prodrome up to 24 hours before where you get like trouble sleeping and difficulty concentrating and so on and so forth. Migraines are wild. It's a lot. They think that it might happen due to waves of activity by groups of brain cells. According to Johns Hopkins, these brain cells could like trigger chemicals like serotonin to narrow our blood vessels, but we still don't know, which is wild because it happens to so many people. Also, interestingly, migraines can be triggered by things that you eat, like aged cheese. Has specific chemicals in it for preservation that can potentially trigger migraines. And before the wellness people jump in, all food is chemicals. Just because I say preservative doesn't mean that we sprayed it with some conspiracy chemical. It could just be natural in the cheese, okay, wellness weirdos? Doesn't matter. There's also cluster headaches. They're pretty rare. They cause severe one-sided pain, usually near one of your eyes. Which is interesting. Again, very rare. These can happen every single day, sometimes multiple times a day, and they can last 15 minutes to 3 hours. Sounds really awful. And then they just like resolve on their own. And we don't know why they happen. It could be alcohol, exercise, bright light, altitude changes. There's, of course, then also the NDPH, the new daily persistent headache. Super duper rare. And it's a headache that won't stop, doesn't get better with common treatments, can last years and never go away. Treatment options are available, but not always successful. This sounds like a very scary headache. So those are the primary ones. Then there's the secondary ones. You have a condition that can cause those nerves to trigger, and your blood cells either constrict or dilate, and they can cause head pain. And this can be trauma to the head or neck, cranial or cervical vascular disorder, non-vascular intracranial problems, substance or withdrawal disorders, infections, disorders of homeostasis, which is my favorite. It's just like, something's not right. There's psychiatric disorder-related headaches, or my favorite, which is headache number 11. Headache or facial pain attributed to disorder of the cranium, neck, eyes, ears, nose, sinuses, teeth, mouth, or other facial or cervical structure.
Just your whole head hurts?
Just like, hey, you got a headache.
It's in a literal sense. It's just your entire head is in pain.
Your head hurts. It's a headache number 11.
You're being a real number 11 headache today.
Yeah, exactly. The classic example of a secondary headache other than the hangover, any guesses? Like what most people would be like, oh, yeah, I get this headache where I'm eating something.
It's specifically food related? Because I thought it was going to be like...
Food related.
Concussions after
playing
ice hockey or something.
Yeah, I'm sure that happens a lot as well. I was thinking of, you're eating ice cream.
Oh, yeah.
And you get an ice cream headache, also known as the
brain freeze.
I don't get those either, but I've heard they suck.
Why? What's it like to just be God's favorite?
I can also bite ice cream with my teeth, and my mom is like, ah!
That's just weird.
What are you doing? Anyway. So Harvard Health says a brain freeze is caused, and this is great because it's just so clinical. The temperature of the roof of the mouth and back of the throat drops drastically from the shot of cold, causing a chain reaction where blood vessels in the roof of the mouth rapidly narrow, triggering brain arteries to dilate. The exact mechanism is unclear. Perhaps artery wall expansions activate the trigeminal nerve, causing face and head pain. But then they're like, if you want to cure it, push your tongue against the roof of your mouth to warm it back up.
Warm that baby up.
That's right.
What if I just rub my stick my fingers on my palate? Just
yeah. Why not? Just do it.
Warm that baby up.
Try it out.
Next time you're at an ice cream social.
When you're at the soda jerk and you're eating some ice cream, your brain freezes. With your best gal, and your brain freezes. Just stick your fingers in your throat. And don't do it. Don't do that. Sinus headaches, which people often experience, are really just tension headaches under the ICHD. Just fun fact. To go back to Anna's question, right? According to the ICHD, you can get headaches from eating food or not eating food. You can get headaches from sleeping or not sleeping. You can get headaches from bad posture, physical activity, literally exercise, from coughing, sneezing, blowing noses, straining, laughing, crying, caffeine intake or no caffeine intake after caffeine intake, so caffeine withdrawal, dehydration, carbon monoxide, stress levels, even estrogen withdrawal. Both men and women have estrogen in our bodies. But it's more common in females or people who have been on estrogen replacements, which is really interesting. So you can get an estrogen withdrawal headache. There are hundreds of different ways to get a headache. So let's answer each one of Anna's one at a time. Too much sun. Any ideas what this might be?
It's not a problem I have, so no.
Yeah, tension type headache, similar to stress. There was a study on women in the Arctic who tended to get more migraine headaches during the summer, but the effect was really small. More research is needed. Very interesting, though. But it's a tension type headache. Too cold. Headache attributed to a cold stimulus, headache number 4.5.1. This headache is due to external cooling of the head, it says, such as occurring during exposure of very cold weather, when diving in cold water. I have experienced that. Or when receiving cryotherapy. Some patients develop intense, short-lasting stabbing headaches mid-frontally, although the pain can be unilateral and temporal, frontal, or retroorbital. Too much sugar. Never experienced this one. I could eat sugar all day. There's no specific lots of sugar headache, Anna, so maybe this one's just for you, just you. I don't know. But it could be from the crash, like a hypoglycemic headache, which is listed in the ICHD-3 under hypnic headache because your sugar drops while you sleep. Also, it's listed under fasting. Makes sense. A no-food headache, also under fasting. That's headache number 10.5, a headache attributed to fasting. A diffuse, non-pulsating headache, usually mild to moderate, occurring during and caused by fasting for at least 8 hours. In case you wonder how to cure a fasting headache, it is relieved after eating. A dehydration headache, it doesn't actually exist in the ICHD-3, which I was really surprised by, but they think it's under Section 10, disorders of homeostasis. A period headache, again, estrogen withdrawal, 8.3.3 headache, but it could be any number of headaches because, your body goes through a lot during menstruation. You could have a headache or migraine developing within 5 days after daily consumption of exogenous estrogen for 3 weeks longer than has been interrupted. So that would be taking birth control pills, which have estrogen in them. So a combination estrogen, progesterone birth control pill, then you have a withdrawal because you are taking no birth control for a week could get a headache. Interesting, right? People who take other estrogen pills can also get this, and it resolves spontaneously within 3 days. Holding in your poop, Anna had on her list. Not sure what the ICHD-3 has on this, but a paper in Korean Journal of Pediatrics wrote that constipation is related to stress, dehydration, and fluid intake, and decreases in appetite, so that can cause a headache. Stress, TTH, the tension type headache, squeezing, squinting, working the muscles, just, relax. Sleep, there are 2 different ones. There's the sleep apnea headache. That sounds more serious. That's 10.1.4. There's the hypnic headache, which I already mentioned, 4.9. Hypnic headache was interesting. It's usually bilateral, usually in patients over 50. It develops during sleep, causing waking that lasts at least 15 minutes, and it's treated with indomethacin, melatonin, caffeine, or lithium. Lithium. It's wild. And then there's the alcohol headache that she listed last. We already mentioned it, alcohol-induced headache, 8141. And there's the immediate one and the delayed one. Getting a hangover is 8142. The immediate alcohol-induced headache is developing within 3 hours after alcohol consumption. It's very rare if you have that. Go get checked out. Really interesting.
Interesting. Because I just assumed that I was getting to that point as I age and drink less, that now when I drink like a beer, sometimes within an hour, I have a headache. And I'm like, is the hangover just getting started early?
Wow. You might have ICHD-3's immediate alcohol-induced headache.
Oh, I knew I was special.
You're so special, dude.
I'm so special.
Oh, my gosh. Both, by the way, typically bilateral pulsating and aggravated by physical activity, may be accompanied by nausea, photophobia, and phonophobia, which is why you don't want to listen to things when your head hurts and you have a hangover. So why do we get all these headaches? Unfortunately for Anna, the why part, every one of them is totally different. We can talk about it, you and me, Julian, but I think evolutionary pressure would mean that there must be some reason why we experience headaches. However, if it doesn't get in the way of passing on genes, then there is no evolutionary pressure, right? Headaches don't typically stop people from reproducing. I mean, there is a meme, of course. Oh, I have a headache, I can't. But,
Right.
In terms of wild animals and living in the brush and the trees, it wasn't like we had a headache and now we died and we can't pass on our genetics.
Well, to me, it just sounds like an extension of why pain exists in the first place.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
If you don't think about it too deeply, wouldn't it be great if I couldn't feel pain? And the answer to that is no.
No. Definitely no.
There
Definitely
are people who are born with rare conditions where they cannot feel pain and they do not live very long typically.
It's bad for them.
Yeah.
It's very bad.
They tend to get injured and then keep on trucking without realizing it and then hurt themselves worse. I think if your brain is hurting, that's a signal that things are not well, that maybe you should sleep or eat or stop drinking the fermented fruit juice, maybe it's fun for a little bit, but then the next day you're all dehydrated,
Yeah, don't always eat the fermented fruit that's been on the ground, primate friend.
Yeah.
the drunk monkey hypothesis, which is, I just love it. The real reason we probably have headaches, to answer Anna's question, is it's a messaging tool. It's our body telling us something's up. Why we get some headaches, like migraines, that are debilitating and cause all sorts of problems, that could just be part of genetic miswiring that just happens with people mixing with each other. And again, it hasn't stopped us from breeding with each other, so it just keeps happening.
Sometimes, these things get triggered maybe through no actual fault of your own. Maybe nothing's wrong and you just get them because it's a complex system and there's going to be gremlins in it.
Yeah.
Sometimes, but a lot of the time, it's useful.
Anyway, Anna in Athens. Let me just go through it one more time. Kyle, cue the poetry music.
Yeah, bongos, right?
Too much sun, headache. Too cold,
Headache.
too much sugar,
Headache.
no food,
Headache.
no water,
Headache.
period.
Oh, I thought that was the end of the sentence.
That's it. Keep going.
Headache.
No access to toilet to poop.
Headache.
Too much stress.
Headache.
Too little sleep.
Headache.
Too much sleep.
Headache.
Too much alcohol.
Headache.
Why?
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 Headaches.
Headaches. That's pretty
That's
good.
good. Yeah, that's pretty good. That was pretty good.
Anybody here who's a fan of slam poetry now has a headache.
Yeah. And if you weren't a fan of slam poetry before, you continued to not be.